Previously on The Chosen People.
I'll serve you for 7 more years. That should be more than enough for your youngest daughter Rachel's hand in marriage.
Yes. Well, I suppose it's better I give her to you, a kinsman, than another dog from another clan wanting to swap rocks and land. You have yourself a deal.
It had been 7 years since his agreement with Laban. He had worked tirelessly, expanding Laban's flocks 7-fold.
Leah? What are you doing here?
I was with you last night, Jacob. Don't you remember?
That treacherous snake. Laban tricked me.
Jacob, you know better. I knew you wouldn't take Leah for a bride price of 7 years. I did what I had to do. This way, I get to marry off my eldest daughter, and you work my fields for far more years than she's worth. It's a win-win. Well, by that, of course, I mean that I win twice.
Jacob sobered immediately. He understood who he was dealing with now. They were cut from the same cloth. The trickster had been tricked. Jacob was angry, but he couldn't avoid the irony. Jacob expanded his lineage larger than his forefathers could ever imagine. 11 sons to bear the promise given to Abraham and Isaac. Yet the house of Jacob had a foundation built on pettiness, favoritism, and jealousy. Jacob did nothing to thwart the coiling weeds of discord, choking out the life of his wives and children.
The Chosen People is sponsored by NetWell. Healthcare costs are rising, and it can feel overwhelming. But at NetWell, we believe there's a better way. Imagine being the part of a community, a family where people just like you share medical expenses. With NetWell, you get affordable care without the burden of surprise bills or sky-high premiums. We're more than traditional healthcare sharing. We offer access to trusted providers, telemedicine, dental, and mental health services. Your well-being is our priority, and we're here for you like family. Join the NetWell family today at netwell.com. Affordable care, trusted community, your health, your way.
A shepherd in biblical pastures. He's trying to make a life for himself despite his flaws and because of his faith. His story is the story of us all. Shalom, my friends, from here in the Holy Land of Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Welcome to The Chosen People. Each day we'll hear a dramatic story inspired by the Bible. Stories filled with timeless lessons of faith, love, and the meaning of life. Through Israel's story, we find this truth, that we are all chosen for something great. Let's begin. Jacob is a flawed man who strives, and he is a faithful man who is chosen. In Jacob's life, we find a labyrinth of choices, each one still echoing through the ages. Let's dive into this dramatic story, inspired by Genesis 30:25-31.
Cheap Caribbean Vacations is back with more pre-Black Friday deals. You can now unlock $500 off Mexico vacation packages and exclusive hotel deals at cheapcaribbean.com. There's nothing like the thrill and excitement of booking a vacation, especially as we head into the dark and cold months of winter. Take Cheap Caribbean's awesome pre-Black Friday sale as your sign to book a vacay to Mexico this holiday season. Go to cheapcaribbean.com to unlock your $500 off today.
For many of us, the holiday season means more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more of your personal information in more places you can't control. It only takes one innocent mistake, even if it's not your mistake, to expose you to identity theft. Not to worry, LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second and alerts you to threats you could miss by yourself, even if you keep an eye on your bank and credit card statements. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed. The last thing you want to do this holiday season is face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or other financial losses from identity theft all alone. Gift yourself the peace of mind that comes with LifeLock and spend more time doing more of the holiday things you love. Visit lifelock.com/iHeart and save up to 40% your first year. That's 40% off at lifelock.com/iHeart. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control.
Hey, I'm here to tell you about Up Faith and Family, your go-to streaming service for uplifting Christmas entertainment this holiday season. Gather your loved ones and cozy up with heartwarming movies that are perfect for the whole family. Stream faith-affirming stories like Baby in a Manger and feel-good holiday stories like Festival of Trees and Christmas in Rockwell. It's commercial-free. Stream anywhere. Start your free trial today. Go to upfaithandfamily.com. That's upfaithandfamily.com.
Jacob reclined at the table opposite Laban. His father-in-law's voice nearly shook the earth when he spoke. Jacob could feel the bass of Laban's laughter deep in his chest. At first, Laban's charisma was charming to Jacob, but over the years and 4 wives later, Jacob grew tired of the show. Laban took up too much space for Jacob to truly grow. He longed to be in the land of his forefathers and to seize the birthright he won from Esau. Leaving Haran wouldn't be easy. Laban had a tight grip on his daughters, even after Jacob had married them. Furthermore, Laban's wealth had increased nearly tenfold since Jacob arrived. Laban considered him something of a good luck charm. Jacob had to be discreet and clever if he was to leave peacefully.
Jacob, tomorrow I'd like you to take the flocks past the western hills. We have guests coming to graze from the east, and I'd prefer not to confuse our sheep with theirs.
Sounds reasonable. I'll have the shepherd boys prepare first thing in the morning.
Ah, excellent. My dear boy. Now tell me, how are my sweet daughters and grandchildren?
Chaotic and unpredictable, as usual.
Jacob shrugged. His household was overflowing with tears, broken bones, and spilled milk. His 12 children, mostly boys, were all under 18. The boys fought with their fists, the wives fought with their tongues, and his sweet daughter Dinah would rarely cease crying because of it all. It was a messy life, but it was Jacob's life nonetheless. In the back of his mind, Jacob blamed Laban for all of it. All he had wanted was to marry Rachel, enjoy a few years of peace, then return to Canaan. But Laban's tricks created a domino effect of backbiting, chaos, and an endless flow of children. Jacob now had wealth, 4 wives, and 12 children, but no actual property to sustain it all. All orchestrated by jolly old Laban, his dear father-in-law.
You should thank me for having so many sons. Without our little agreement with Leah, you'd only have 1 son to your name. Look at how blessed you are now.
Yes, blessed indeed. Speaking of which, Laban, I have something I want to discuss.
Laban leaned back and sipped his cup. His eyes narrowed, and his wide smile shrank into a slight smirk.
I'd like to return home to my home country. Allow me to leave with my wives and children. I've served you the full 14 years of our arrangement, and then more to build enough of my own wealth here. Now that Rachel has borne a child, I feel this season of our lives has ended.
Laban drew a long, deep breath and pondered. Jacob studied his eyes. Laban rarely betrayed his inner thoughts, but Jacob had become adept at reading him. Jacob knew that Laban was calculating the loss. The big man leaned forward, cup twirling in hand.
In the past 20 years, my livestock has increased, my family's wealth has doubled, and the land has been rich with crops. Ha! It almost seems too good to be true. So, I found some gods. I sought to know the answer through divination. A seer revealed the answer to me in the dark sands and bone.
And what did this divination reveal to you?
that your God has blessed me because of your presence. All I have gained in these past 2 decades are because of you.
My dear Laban, you didn't need the occult to show you such things. That was the blessing given to my grandfather, Abraham. Whoever blesses me will be blessed.
Indeed, it's true. So, dear Jacob, because I owe you a debt of gratitude, name your wages, and I will give it.
Was it that easy? Jacob wondered at Laban for a moment. It was in his nature to be agreeable at first, and then dastardly in the margins between promises made and promises kept. Jacob needed to be sent off with his family as peacefully as possible.
You know I've put the most effort into your livestock. You only had a little before I came, but it's increased tenfold since then. All I ask is that you provide me with enough for my household to start.
So what shall I give you?
You don't need to give me anything. I will pasture your flock and remove all the blemished ones from the herd. I'll take the spotted sheep, the black lambs, and the speckled goats. They'll be my wages. This serves you in 2 ways. First, you'll know I'm dealing honestly with you since the animals will be easy to identify. Second, you'll have purer herds left for you when I leave. It'll increase the value of your herd tremendously.
Ah, yes! This is good! Let it be as you have said!
Laban reached out his arm and linked it with Jacob's. Jacob hid his smile. Laban wrongly assumed that the trick with Leah was water under the bridge. It wasn't, and Jacob was determined to remind Laban who the real trickster was. Laban removed all the black, blemished, spotted, and striped livestock from his flocks. He counted each of them, ensuring none were left unaccounted for. He then put them in the care of his sons, while Jacob led Laban's herd for one final graze. He left a 3 days' journey between himself and Laban, ensuring there was no chance for the flocks to intermingle. Reuben, Simeon, and Levi were with Jacob, padding behind him like pups. Jacob led them to a far-off pasture beside a dense forest.
Boys, I want you to go into the forest and retrieve some branches for me. I need fresh sticks from poplar, almond, and plane trees.
The boys did as they were told, running deep into the forest, tripping each other along the way. They returned with the branches. Jacob observed them, nodded in approval, and began breaking them into smaller pieces.
Your grandfather Laban has been close to this city for too long. He's forgotten some of the finer art in husbandry. It isn't just about keeping the sheep safe and fed. You must be intentional with how they're bred. You need to understand when they're in heat, how they choose mates, and what makes them fertile.
As Jacob explained these things, he tossed the branches into the sheep's watering trough.
I've spent years preparing every sheep in Laban's flock. I know which traits skip generations and how to make certain sheep breed with those hidden traits. Soon, this flock will multiply with spotted, freckled, and striped sheep, all for us to take back home. Currently, our flock back at camp is half the size of Laban's. By the time we leave, it'll be double.
The sheep came to drink, and a satisfied grin curled on Jacob's face.
Another thing Laban does not realize is that I have the favor of God passed down to me from my father and his father. He revealed this plan to me in a dream. God's guidance and man's diligence, this is the way of our people. Watch and learn, my sons. When we return to Canaan, you'll need to know all these things.
He's a snake in the grass. Jacob's been taking from our father right under our noses.
Jacob leaned against the low wall separating him from Laban's men. They were young and fiery, worried that Jacob's increased wealth was due to theft.
I haven't stolen anything. It's Laban's foolishness that's gotten him into trouble. I can't have that hatred boiling until it's too late. It's time to leave now.
Then everything narrowed. The sounds of the people muted, and the smells of fire and filled pots disappeared. Everything was silent, still. Then, in the deep chambers of Jacob's heart, the voice of his God echoed.
Return to the land of your fathers and your kin. Go, for I will be with you.
all Jacob's senses returned. Jacob steeled his will and slipped back to his camp unnoticed by Laban's men. He gathered Rachel and Leah to himself, pacing back and forth as he worked up the courage to speak.
Ever since I told your father about my intentions to leave, he's grown cold. I fear his men are fueling his ire toward me.
He has grown quite agitated as of late.
It may have something to do with all those sheep, Jacob. You've provoked him.
The God of my father has been with me. That is why our wealth has increased. While I am shrewd with my resources, your father has exhausted his and spent frivolously.
He spent a great deal of money on those shrines of his. They're his tools for divination. All of the inheritance that was owed to Leah and me was wasted on those silly statues.
He's unhinged and unpredictable. You know I've served your father with all my strength, yet he's cheated me 10 times over. He's changed the terms of our agreement too many times to count. Each time I've ended up gaining more.
How is that exactly? How have you outsmarted our father?
I haven't outsmarted him. God has. And now it's time we leave for the land he's promised to me. Will you go with me? Are we in this together?
Leah and Rachel looked at each other. The situation demanded they agree. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, Rachel and Leah exchanged looks of understanding.
There's nothing left for us here. Our father has regarded us as foreigners. He's left us nothing.
Whatever you've gained is our gain too. Whatever God asks you to do, we will follow.
Jacob wanted to hug and kiss them both, but decided not to. There were moments when the strangeness of their situation dawned on him, and now was one of those moments. He shook the awkward feeling, then commanded some men to mount their camels. Leah and Rachel prepared the children, while Zilpah and Bilhah gathered all their belongings. The clouds parted like curtains to give moonlight to Jacob's camp. Jacob hustled, collapsing every last tent and locking every last chest. Bags were loaded onto wagons and camels were loaded with his children's belongings. Every child had a camel, all but Joseph, tied securely to Rachel's chest. In the flurry of preparation, Rachel meandered into her father's room. He had been gone for the night for shearing. There, sitting atop a wooden shrine, were the idols of divination. Contempt for her father boiled deep within her. Those idols were a symbol of Laban's indifference towards his children and the vain, cultish beliefs he'd become enslaved to. In defiance, Rachel swiped the idols from the altar and put them in her bag. With a torch in one hand and the reins of his camel in another, Jacob turned to his wives, children, servants, and men. Looking at all gathered in one place made him realize how vast his wealth had become. He had a loyal caravan of family and friends ready to follow him into the Negev.
None of you have seen what I have seen. None of you know the riches of Canaan or the nectar of the land. You've never met my father, Isaac, nor have you heard of Abraham. But you've seen me. You've seen how my God has blessed me. Some of you know all too well that my God has blessed me despite my own foolishness and pride.
Jacob stole a glance at his wives, who knew intimately Jacob's follies and failures. They had bore witness to his flaws, but had seen God work despite them, which fueled their trust.
My grandfather, Abraham, once left the comforts of these lands to Canaan. He embarked on an adventure into the unknown, beckoned by a faint promise whispered in the stars. Tonight, we've been given that same call to adventure. We're asked to leave this land and step into the unknown. Hear me, clan of Jacob. Here is my declaration that God will be with us just as he was with my fathers, Isaac and Abraham.
The crowd erupted in cheers. Jacob raised his torch high into the air. Chills covered his body. He finally felt like a leader. He felt like he had the potential for greatness. He pulled at the reins of his camel and turned toward the Euphrates. His course was set toward the hill country of Gilead.
Cheap Caribbean Vacations is back with more pre-Black Friday deals. You can now unlock $500 off Mexico vacation packages and exclusive hotel deals at cheapcaribbean.com. There's nothing like the thrill and excitement of booking a vacation, especially as we head into the dark and cold months of winter. Take Cheap Caribbean's awesome pre-Black Friday sale as your sign to book a vacay to Mexico this holiday season. Go to cheapcaribbean.com to unlock your $500 off today.
Hey, I'm here to tell you about Up Faith and Family, your go-to streaming service for uplifting Christmas entertainment this holiday season. Gather your loved ones and cozy up with heartwarming movies that are perfect for the whole family. Stream faith-affirming stories like Baby in a Manger and feel-good holiday stories like Festival of Trees and Christmas in Rockwell. It's commercial-free. Stream anywhere. Start your free trial today. Go to upfaithandfamily.com. That's upfaithandfamily.com.
Black Friday has officially started at Blinds.com, and the savings are huge. Right now, you can save up to 50% site-wide and score premium doorbusters and a free professional measure. Don't wait. These deals are happening right now. Swapping out old blinds for custom window coverings is a small project with big results, and Blinds.com makes it easy and affordable. With Blinds.com, there are no long lines or confusing quotes. You shop online without sacrificing quality, style, or service. One of our design experts can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can even handle everything from measure to install. Plus, you get window treatments for your whole home installed for just one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Blinds.com's Black Friday sales event is happening now with our best deals of the season. Save up to 50% site-wide and score premium doorbusters and a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Laban was only a day's journey behind Jacob, breathing threats of death into the cold night air as he galloped over the sands with a small army behind him.
I'll have that traitor's head on a pike. He took my daughters, my wealth, and my gods.
His men were gaining on them and settled for one more night in the desert.
Tomorrow, I'll have my revenge.
Laban fell asleep under the stars, head heavy on his pillow, fantasizing about driving a spear through Jacob's throat. However, in the dead of night, the God of Jacob appeared to Laban in a dream. Laban saw visions of Jacob and his grandchildren huddled in a circle, and Laban's men closed in with spears. Then the stars in the sky fell upon Laban, and a voice that sounded like thunder boomed.
Be careful how you deal with Jacob. Mind your words, whether good or bad.
Laban awoke in fright, looking up and around him. It was only a dream, but Laban realized that harming Jacob would come at a great cost to him. Jacob woke in a panic. The braying of camels and the clamoring of men caused Jacob to leap out of his tent with his sword drawn. His men were awake as well, swords at the ready. Dawn's candescent glare beamed behind the intruders, hiding their faces, but Jacob could see the glimmering of their spears. He squinted, straining to get a gauge on the situation, but everything became clear when he heard a shouting voice.
Jacob, you dog!
Laban. Keep your swords drawn.
Laban dismounted his camel. His broad chest was puffed out in rage. He postured himself as he skulked forward. Jacob returned the posture, standing straight with his shoulders back. People rarely thought of Jacob as a large man, but he was. He was a man of wit first, but when push came to shove, he'd fight. His grandfather had taught him that. There were moments when you couldn't run. You had to face your enemies head on. When Jacob was younger, he would have shifted his feet to flee, but now, with his family behind him, Jacob readied himself.
Leave, Laban. Now.
Why have you done this to me? After all I have done for you, this is how you repay me. You've tricked me!
It's no more than you deserve, Laban.
You denied me a chance to kiss my daughters and grandchildren goodbye. I could have sent you away with songs and feasts. You were a fool to leave the way you did. It is my right to do you harm for what you've done.
Laban stepped forward, and all of Jacob's men readied themselves. Jacob gripped his sword tightly and planted his feet. Laban looked around. His brow was furrowed with a mixture of rage and hurt.
I should kill you, Jacob. But the God of your father spoke to me last night in a dream. He warned me not to harm you, so I won't.
That's a wise choice.
I understand why you fled the way you did. But why take my household gods? What are they to you? Why steal from me more than you already have?
Jacob cocked his head to the side in confusion. He looked around, scanning the faces of his men. He turned back to Laban with a confused look.
Laban, I fled because I was afraid you would take your daughters back by force. Judging by the spears pointed at me, it seems my fears were warranted. But as for your idols, I don't know what you're talking about. If any of my men have stolen your gods, their lives are yours to take. Search all our tents.
Rachel's eyes widened. The idols were in her pack, right underneath her. Laban stepped forward, face to face with Jacob. His nostrils flared like a bull's.
Very well. Let's have a look then.
Laban started with Jacob's tent. He rummaged through all his belongings, paying little attention to putting things back where they belonged. No idols. He went into Leah's tent and found nothing. He did the same with Rachel's and all the others. When he passed by Rachel, she was sitting, not standing. He grunted.
You won't even stand for your own father.
Forgive me, Father. The way of the woman is upon me. I fear if I stand to greet you, it would be a mess. If you'd like, I can stand. Here, let me...
I know my gods are somewhere around here, Jacob. You're a thief and a coward.
Laban pushed Judah aside to get into his tent, but Jacob stopped him and shouted.
Enough, Laban! You surround me like I'm a criminal, but I want you to list an actual offense against me. What is my sin? You felt through all my goods and found nothing.
Yes, but...
Don't interrupt me! You're in my camp, and I will speak.
Everyone fell silent. Jacob's voice suddenly seemed deeper and more palpable. He was tired of being underestimated and pushed around by Laban. For years he had endured Laban's nonsense on behalf of his family, but no longer.
For nearly 20 years I've been with you. Your ewes and female goats have never miscarried, and I haven't eaten a single ram from your flock. I never told you when a predator took one of your flock. Instead, I took from my own flock to replace what you lost. Did you know that, Laban?
Laban was silent, simmering in a mixture of embarrassment and rage. Jacob continued, now circling Laban.
Gave no mercy while I was working under you. If something was stolen from me, day or night, you required me to pay it back. So there I stood, day and night, ever watchful for you. The heat of the day consumed me. The cold of the night shook my bones. I served you for 14 years for your 2 daughters. 6 years for your flock. You changed my wages 6 times because you were in mountains of debt. If the God of my fathers had not been on my side, you would have already sent me away with nothing. But God is with me, Laban. You know this because he rebuked you last night. If he can carve his way into your dreams and make me rich despite your cruelty, what else do you think he's capable of?
Laban looked around. His men had lowered their spears in submission to Jacob. His daughters were behind him, looking at him like a monster. Laban's body uncoiled, and he rolled his shoulders back. With an unclenched jaw, Laban threw his spear onto the ground and extended an arm to Jacob.
We have warred, you and I. We've struggled against each other, but... But now I see that we have everything in common. Your wives are my daughters. Your children are my grandchildren. Your flocks came from my flocks. Our lives have grown intertwined. I propose a covenant between us. Let everyone bear witness that we can be unified and at peace.
Jacob peered at Laban, searching his eyes for his true intentions. He seemed genuine, and although Jacob loathed to admit it, their lives were indeed bound to each other. Jacob turned to his men and shouted,
Gather stones! My people establish monuments to remember events like these. We'll gather stones as a testament to our covenant.
Jacob's men and his oldest sons gathered and stacked stones between Jacob and Laban. With each stone, the anger between the two quelled.
My people call this place Jagar Sahadutha.
My people call this place Gilead.
Its new names shall be Gilead and Mizpah.
May God Most High judge between us today.
If you abuse my daughters or take wives besides my daughters, God will be a witness between us. And I vow to not cross the threshold of this pillar to pursue or harm you.
The two placed their hands on the pillars and swore by the God of Abraham. They made a sacrifice on the hill and enjoyed a meal together. In the morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren goodbye and went his way. Jacob watched Laban disappear into the sun-soaked horizon, his face aglow from dawn's light. Jacob nodded and turned back to Canaan. He wasn't sure what the future held. No doubt Esau was somewhere out there, stronger and more vengeful. Jacob chose to step forward in faith that the God of his forefathers would protect him.
Cheap Caribbean Vacations is back with more pre-Black Friday deals. You can now unlock $500 off Mexico vacation packages and exclusive hotel deals at cheapcaribbean.com. There's nothing like the thrill and excitement of booking a vacation, especially as we head into the dark and cold months of winter. Take Cheap Caribbean's awesome pre-Black Friday sale as your sign to book a vacay to Mexico this holiday season. Go to cheapcaribbean.com to unlock your $500 off today.
Hey, I'm here to tell you about Up Faith and Family, your go-to streaming service for uplifting Christmas entertainment this holiday season. Gather your loved ones and cozy up with heartwarming movies that are perfect for the whole family. Stream faith-affirming stories like Baby in a Manger and feel-good holiday stories like Festival of Trees and Christmas in Rockwell. It's commercial-free. Stream anywhere. Start your free trial today. Go to upfaithandfamily.com. That's upfaithandfamily.com.
Black Friday has officially started at Blinds.com, and the savings are huge. Right now, you can save up to 50% site-wide and score premium doorbusters and a free professional measure. Don't wait. These deals are happening right now. Swapping out old blinds for custom window coverings is a small project with big results, and Blinds.com makes it easy and affordable. With Blinds.com, there are no long lines or confusing quotes. You shop online without sacrificing quality, style, or service. One of our design experts can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can even handle everything from measure to install. Plus, you get window treatments for your whole home installed for just one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Blinds.com's Black Friday sales event is happening now with our best deals of the season. Save up to 50% site-wide and score premium doorbusters and a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Wow, what an incredible story. An ancient tale from a time when livestock and labor were the currency of life. There's Jacob trying to carve out a living and a future amid the chaos. And there's his father-in-law, Laban, holding on to power and control, reluctant to let go of the man who brought him prosperity. And then there's God, the silent architect behind the scenes, guiding, providing, shaping destinies. I can't help but see myself in Jacob, striving, struggling, and always hoping. His ingenuity and his resourcefulness are a mix of human cunning and divine blessing, don't you think? It's a story we've heard before and that we'll hear again. It's a story of flawed humans and a faithful God who loves them. It's about a God who chose flawed humans. It's our story. Let's look into Jacob's story a little bit deeper. Let's leave the bustling world of ancient transactions and step into the serene pastures of shepherds. In Jacob's time, shepherding was more than an occupation. It was a symbol of leadership, of provision, and of our responsibility to care for others. When Jacob cleverly influenced the breeding of his flocks, he wasn't just doing a job, and he wasn't even just securing his future. He was engaging in an act that balances human effort and divine blessing. In the worldview of the Bible, shepherding embodies leadership that cares and guides and nurtures. Can you think of someone else in the Bible who was a shepherd? Well, soon we'll talk about the shepherd, King David, whose early experiences in the fields shaped his heart for his people. You see, our modern perspectives can often miss the depth of the Bible's pastoral imagery. We see shepherding through a quaint, nostalgic lens instead of as a dynamic spiritual calling of the Bible, which asks us this: do we lead with integrity, or do we let deceit corrode the trust that binds us? You see, Jacob's story isn't just about shepherding. It's once again a story of human schemes and divine favor. And we might ask ourselves, just why does God bless Jacob when Jacob has been a bit deceitful? Here's the thing: God's favor isn't tied to our perfection. In Jacob's story and throughout the Bible, we see a God who blesses humans not because of our schemes, but often in spite of them. Jacob, with all of his trickery, well, maybe I should say despite all of his trickery, becomes a part of God's grand plan. Jacob deceives and he manipulates, and yet God's promise to him stands firm. Isn't that amazing? God's plans are so resilient and so unshakable that they even incorporate our mistakes. But let's not be mistaken. Jacob's actions bring significant consequences. Jacob doesn't walk away unscathed. His life is marred by tension and strife, from his complicated relationship with his brother Esau to the conflicts with his father-in-law Laban. He flees his home. He lives in fear of retribution. He endures years of hard labor under Laban's manipulation. It's not easy. His family life is fraught with discord, rivalry, and sorrow. Jacob's story reminds us that while God's grace can work through our flaws, it doesn't actually take away the consequences of our actions. Jacob's journey is one of learning, often the hard way, about the importance of integrity and trusting God. It's the story of Jacob, a shepherd among the Bible's many shepherds, who learns to trust in God, his shepherd above. A shepherd, a flawed human, a patriarch. Jacob is so many things. And as I mentioned earlier, he's also Laban's manipulated and tormented son-in-law. And there's a lesson right there in that story that I want to leave you with. You see, in all the years that Laban deceived and cheated Jacob, Jacob never once reacted in anger. And then, of course, finally, 20 years of pent-up feelings about Laban's underhanded dealings found their outlet in Jacob's outburst. But in those 2 decades of Jacob tempering his anger, we see the importance that God places on self-control. Anger should be deferred until the last possible moment, until there's no other alternative. If there's another way to deal with a hard situation, deal with it that way. Anger is a last resort. This kind of thinking seems to go against what society tries to tell us, doesn't it? The world tells us to get angry, to get vengeful, and anything that we are upset about, we should let it out, that we have a right to express our rage at every imagined slight. But Jacob's ability to hold back should be a blessing and an inspiration and a teaching to us all. To be, as the psalmist writes, quote, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, end quote. And so, with love, I send you off with a final blessing. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha v'chonecha. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you. May he be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
You can listen to The Chosen People with Yael Eckstein ad-free by downloading and subscribing to the pray.com app today. This pray.com production is only made possible by our dedicated team of creative talents. Steve Katina, Max Bard, Zach Schellebarger, and Ben Gammon are the executive producers of The Chosen People with Yael Eckstein, edited by Alberto Avila, narrated by Paul Coltofianu. Characters are voiced by Jonathan Cotton, Aaron Salvato, Sarah Seltz, Mike Reagan, Stephen Ringwald, Sylvia Zaradoc, and the opening prayer is voiced by John Moore. Music by Andrew Morgan Smith. Written by Bree Roseley and Aaron Salvato. Special thanks to Bishop Paul Lanier, Robin Van Etten, Caleb Burrows, Jocelyn Fuller, and the team at International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. You can hear more Pray.com productions on the Pray.com app, available on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. If you enjoyed The Chosen People with Yael Eckstein, please rate and leave a review.
Cheap Caribbean Vacations is back with more pre-Black Friday deals. You can now unlock $500 off Mexico vacation packages and exclusive hotel deals at cheapcaribbean.com. There's nothing like the thrill and excitement of booking a vacation, especially as we head into the dark and cold months of winter. Take Cheap Caribbean's awesome pre-Black Friday sale as your sign to book a vacay to Mexico this holiday season. Go to cheapcaribbean.com to unlock your $500 off today.
Hey, I'm here to tell you about Up Faith and Family, your go-to streaming service for uplifting Christmas entertainment this holiday season. Gather your loved ones and cozy up with heartwarming movies that are perfect for the whole family. Stream faith-affirming stories like Baby in a Manger and feel-good holiday stories like Festival of Trees and Christmas in Rockwell. It's commercial-free. Stream anywhere. Start your free trial today. Go to upfaithandfamily.com. That's upfaithandfamily.com.
For many of us, the holiday season means more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more of your personal information in more places you can't control. It only takes one innocent mistake, even if it's not your mistake, to expose you to identity theft. Not to worry, LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second and alerts you to threats you could miss by yourself, even if you keep an eye on your bank and credit card statements. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed. The last thing you want to do this holiday season is face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or other financial losses from identity theft all alone. Gift yourself the peace of mind that comes with LifeLock and spend more time doing more of the holiday things you love. Visit lifelock.com/iHeart and save up to 40% your first year. That's 40% off at lifelock.com/iHeart. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control.